Cave with Mike and Max.
Welcome back to the Chat Cave here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Follow me on Twitter at MikeMcGTV. As always, it's your hosts, Mike and
Max from 3 Geeks. How's it going?
Going well, going well. So last time when we were on the Chat Cave, we discussed comic books, that is Under the Hood, which you should go check out. Talk a little bit about Jason Todd and all of his crazy recent shenanigans.
And Superboy punching time.
Yeah, Superboy punching time. How can you pass up that opportunity? So this time, though, we're going to delve back into Bat animation, featuring Kevin Conroy, our all-time favorite Batman, I think we would agree.
Yep, the quintessential Bat voice.
Mm-hmm. This is continuing that through line and the work he did with the fantabulous Bruce Timm back in the early 90s with Batman the Animated Series, leading into this show, leading into the Superman Animated Series and Justice League and all that good stuff that came out. This is one I've been kind of itching to pick Max's brain about because I'm not entirely sure what a lot of your particular opinions and thoughts are on this show. So I'm eager to get into a little bit of a retrospect on Batman Beyond.
Yeah, Batman Beyond, I was lucky enough to, like, it was on, Saturday morning cartoons or the morning cartoons when I was a kid. So I fell in love with it then. Normally, you wouldn't think that, because this is like a replacement Batman. It's a new kid. It's not really, Bruce Wayne's in it, but he's not Batman. So it has a lot going against it, but it's just very, very well done, and the stories are still very gripping, and the animation is solid, and it still looks good now. So it holds up, and yeah, I love Batman Beyond. It's one of my favorite Batman cartoons. It's probably my second favorite series with Batman, to the animated series.
Right. My own connection with the show. When it first came out, I had momentarily dropped out of interest with DC animation. I followed Superman for a bit, and then I was kind of like, okay, well, I'm moving on to other stuff for right now. So when Batman Beyond first came out, I really wasn't in the know about it. I had heard things kind of in passing like, oh, it's futuristic, teenage Batman. And I was kind of initially thinking like, oh, okay. But then a couple years later, before Justice League came out, and the animated Justice League, I should say.
Yes.
Not the cartoon Justice League that we got in November, but the well thought out, well developed Justice League. Anyways, different tangent. Before that show came out, I decided to finally see what Batman Beyond was all about. When I got into it, I was pretty impressed with what they were able to pull off, given that log line of young, futuristic Batman. You hear that line and you kind of start thinking the worst possible outcome.
Oh yeah, no, it's you throw the word teenager in there and it's already like suspect. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even matter what you do. Yeah, this one, it's set in the future, so they get to play around with the super science and like the testing and stuff like that, and so like you see a lot more like just people just being terrible people.
Yeah,
in Batman Beyond, I think, it does stay pretty dark, and I dig it. It's very well done.
It fits in with the aesthetic of Batman too, because the whole thing about Batman is he's fighting crime in the city where crime is pretty much prevalent from the top down. They take that and amplify that with, is it called Neo Gotham? What they call Gotham City in the future, Neo Gotham?
I think it's still just Gotham City.
Okay. Because they go for the Blade Runner type of aesthetic with the futuristic Gotham City. You got these towering skyscrapers all throughout the place. A lot of the tech looks just not Jetson-like, but not too far off from it, but it's got this dirty, gritty feel to it, lived in. In this show, what I remember from especially the first season is that it's not so much about supervillains. Like, they're there, but you'll find that the supervillains are actually tied more to, like, corporate espionage. And
yes.
The big bad in especially the first season is a Lex Luthor type character.
Yeah, and, it's turmoil in the Wayne company. Yeah, this guy's just a super ambitious, super aggressive businessman, and and of course that means he's totally evil. So he's obviously the main bad guy. Like,
And he kind of inadvertently creates the new Batman, who, let's talk a little bit about the new Batman, the kid Batman, I guess.
Terry McGinnis.
Yeah, Terry McGinnis, who is voiced by Will Friedle, is his name? Will Friedle,
Yes.
who was, for those of you who may recognize that name, he was the older brother to Corey Matthews in Boy Meets World.
What was his name?
Eric, yeah, Eric Matthews. Hey, I remembered something other than Topanga. Yay. That's all I remember. Eric Matthews was the actual funny brother. Topanga was hot, and Mr. Feeney was the man. That's all I remember from that show.
Everybody wants Mr. Feeney as a principal.
Definitely. Yeah, he's voiced by Eric Matthews, and we're just going to call him that from here on out.
Yep, that's his name.
And he's this juvenile delinquent, gets into a lot of trouble. His parents are divorced, so he spends time living with his dad, who is always giving him a hard time. And his dad just so happens to work for the Wayne Corporation, which, by the way, did we mention was corrupt? And by the way, his dad happens to stumble upon some of that corruption, so obviously things are going to turn out well for Terry's dad.
Yep. It's all sunshine and roses. They send him off on a fantastic Bermuda vacation, and that's the end of the show.
No, he's murdered brutally. So,
and then they dress up and they tear up his house to make it look like Joker gangs did it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we forgot to mention. Yeah, in this futuristic city, the Joker is gone, but his legacy lives on in punk biker gangs, which,
yes,
again, when you think about it, punk biker gangs themed after the Joker, you think the worst, but it actually works in this show.
Yeah, because they never really give him too much weight,
right?
And it's illogical. It's like there's no Joker anymore, so there's no criminal mastermind. There's just there's roving bands of punks. So and they use them in that way. They're not like a major plot point ever.
Well,
there for...
we'll discuss how they later on become a major plot point. It's made to look like the Joker's killed his dad, but even Terry's kind of like something ain't quite right. He ends up earlier in the series, in the first episode, he ended up saving an elderly and decrepit Bruce Wayne, or I guess Bruce kind of sort of saved him. They saved each other from Jokers. This whole time, the main man himself, Bruce Wayne, has been a recluse for, I guess, going on 40 years probably by the time we get into future Gotham City. I'm trying to remember, what was the big thing that made him quit being Batman? Did they get into...
So it's they go into it in the first episode. He makes the Batman Beyond suit, so it's it's a advanced suit, flight capabilities, all the different tech, right?
Right.
Because he's using that to combat his old age, when he's still trying to be Batman. So I'm guessing he's 50 or something. And he gets into a fight. His heart starts to fail him, and he ends up picking up a guy's gun and shooting him with it.
That's right.
And that's what killed the Batman.
Yeah, the fact that Bruce had to resort to the one thing he swore he would never resort to during crime fighting, pulling a gun on somebody. Like, that forces him to quit. Yeah, at this point, he's been retired. He's been living in seclusion. He gave up control of his company to, I think his name is Powers, the Lex Luthor-ish guy. Yeah.
Is it Max Powers? That's not his name.
It's something Powers. Of course his name is Powers. But he gave up control of his company to the dude. Terry makes him aware of all the corruption that's going on in his own company. So from that point on, very begrudgingly, Bruce agrees to work with him. But then Terry ends up, I think, stealing the bat suit to get vengeance for his dad's death. And at first, Bruce is really like, no, I'm not going to bring it into being Batman. But eventually kind of starts to show him the ropes and takes him on as sort of his... he's like his assistant, right? His public face is that...
he's just his, elderly aide. And, he definitely is like his personal assistant. He just chauffeur, all that good stuff.
And so a lot of the series focuses on not only them dealing with super criminals and blasts from the past, but also dealing with making Terry fully Batman and making him a better Batman. I want to kind of pick your brain as like, what do you think of Terry versus Bruce? Where are the strengths, where are the weaknesses in both of them?
Terry is not the detective Bruce is. He's smart, but he's not there. And also, he doesn't have the physical training that Bruce did. So he relies more on the bat suit to to augment his failures or his lacking. But yeah, Bruce Wayne, but Terry has more compassion, and he's got more. He's kind of a little more with it because like nobody is Batman. Like Batman is basically a T-1000. And and nobody else can have that. Like no one else can do that. But so yeah, Terry, where he lacks just, I think, because Bruce Wayne, his parents got killed, and he is like, okay, well now I need to set off on my ninja journey to avenge their deaths. Like Terry McGinnis is just like an athletic high school kid, So that's I think where they're different, and the detective skills, but. With the suit, do all the filters and stuff like that, and scan rooms and yada yada yada. So Terry doesn't need as much as of the detective skills and intellect that Bruce Wayne has.
Yeah, it's got everything. Like you can bug people, you can interface with tech, you can camouflage yourself. From what I remember,
yeah, turn invisible.
It's like
Flight.
In that case, I would just do that all the time. But I get people need to be scared of Batman, so they actually need to see him. But I would just be in camo all the time when I'm doing my fighting.
But of course, it's always like, oh, he hit me in the right part of the suit. Now the camo doesn't work. So
there is a lot of convenient. There is a lot of convenient. The suit doesn't work. Like I think even in the first couple of episodes, Bruce just completely shuts down the suit when Terry starts going out of line.
Oh yeah, he's when Terry first steals it, Bruce just shuts him down. And like he's getting his ass kicked. It's pretty funny. But yeah, Bruce lets it happen for a solid like 10, 15 seconds. But yeah, he just completely shut down the suit. Terry couldn't do anything, just stuck in it. But what gets me is that it's not even like, okay, so now I just don't have any of the benefits of the suit. Like he was like stuck in an Iron Man suit that couldn't move,
I'm cramping up here. When you were watching the show, did you ever get a Spider-Man vibe?
Yeah, because he's a younger guy. He's very quippy. He likes to talk a lot of trash. So, yeah, for sure, I definitely get that vibe.
And also, the one thing kind of that makes Terry interesting is that even though he lost his dad, even though he's driven by some kind of vengeance to be Batman, he's still pretty well balanced. He has a girlfriend. He has friends in high school. He has a mom and a little brother. It's like, that's an interesting dynamic because, Bruce Wayne, totally an orphan, other than having Alfred and many, many sidekicks. Dick Grayson, orphan. In this continuity, Tim Drake was an orphan. Yep. At that point, the only one who had a regular kind of family life was Batgirl. Yeah, Terry, for a Batman, is actually pretty emotionally stable or has a good support structure in place.
Terry McGinnis is more like, I would say, a Tim Drake Robin than he is anyone else. But from the comic books, obviously, like you said, this continuity, Tim Drake is also an orphan. He does have, and it's really sad, but he does have the most stable family situation out of all the Bat friends.
And I always, whenever it's him and Bruce in the cave, and he's like, hey, man, can this wait until tomorrow night? I got to go do homework, or I got to go on a date with Dana. And Bruce is always like, the job always comes first. Or something. He's like, Batman wouldn't go on a date. Like, you get both sides of it. You get Bruce's kind of like, I don't understand this human interaction. And you get it from Terry's side too, because at that point, I think, we were teenagers when that show first came out. And we're kind of like, old man doesn't understand.
Like, why can't I go party all night and kick ass, cry and fight? Like,
it's like the suit does most of the work.
That's true. He should take naps while he's flying places in the suit. Just have Bruce take over.
No, of course the suit doesn't do all the work. The heart of Batman does all the work. Nah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you need a capable guy in the suit, but, like, again, just put me on autopilot. Let me take a quick 10-minute nap.
And I'm good to
get
go.
Across town.
In fact, while I'm fighting, can you just feed me my notes for my midterm into my visor so I can study and fight at the same time?
Another thing I liked, one of the episodes, for the Bruce and Terry like dynamic, they're making Bruce think he was going insane. It was a guy who was using sonic powers to like make Bruce hear things.
Yeah, Shriek.
And Shriek, which I like that villain too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bruce is like, I know I wasn't going crazy because he kept on calling me Bruce, and I don't call myself that.
And he's like, "What do you call yourself?" And Bruce just gives him a look like, "Come on, man.
Yeah,
you know what I call myself."
So I think that's speaks to the issue of where it's like Bruce Wayne is still Batman at his heart is like Batman wouldn't do that shit. Like
we've got Bruce, and he's there in kind of support capacity, but still kind of the brains of the operation. You've got Terry out there physically doing all this stuff, but there are moments that he gets to take on a lot of responsibility for himself. With great power comes great responsibility. I am Batman, of course. Everyone knows that famous Batman line. There's a lot of cool supporting players. We mentioned, Shriek, an awesome idea for a supervillain who relies on sound. We mentioned Powers, who's the big Lex Luthor dude. We mentioned the mom and the brother and girlfriend, of course. Is there another character or other supporting player that you feel just stands out every time you see him in an episode?
Oh yeah, Commissioner Gordon, I love. Barbara Gordon, Commissioner, is great. She gets to play an interesting role where, like she's on both sides of it, and I really like that. They don't have her in the show a whole bunch, but she definitely is featured. I like a couple of the villains. Ink, who's like the super espionage kind of chick, and then Curari was another one. And I think she comes back. I think they both have a couple return episodes.
Yeah, they at least have like 3 or 4 episodes, as recurring characters. Curari, she was an assassin, right?
Yeah. She's like super top-notch assassins. Like the blade she uses a sword. It's like cut by diamonds and lasers and stuff, and
so it can
cut through anything.
Yeah, it could slice an atom in half, probably.
So she was a really cool villain. I think those are my favorite, just like off the top. There's a bunch of other just like cool guys that they only have one ofs, and you never see him again. Like the kid who took over the robot. His dad was like a construction dude.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but I remember the episode. I think it was called Gollum, or
yes.
Golem. Like, you take control of this giant monster, and you're able to it's a big construction droid or something like that, and he makes him terrorize the guy who's voiced by Seth Green. That's what I remember. I'm like, that's Seth Green. Seth Green plays like a Flash Thompson type character in the show. He's like a bully to McGinnis.
Do you think Seth Green was like, hey, can you just draw me like 6'2", like 250? But
keep the red hair so everyone knows it's me.
yeah, but I'll never be this in life. I just need to... I like Max, the best friend, too. She's cool.
Oh yeah, she shows up. She's not there from the beginning though, right? She shows up a little bit later.
I think she shows up season 2.
Max is this pink-haired friend of both Terry and Dana in high school. Like super genius, whiz with computers, and she ends up kind of playing Alfred to Terry in a way.
I'd say she's more of an Oracle.
Or yeah, I guess Oracle, yeah. Because she ends up discovering who Batman is, and then he entrusts her with a secret. And it's kind of like, for a while, her and Bruce aren't really aware of each other. Like, he ends up going to her sometimes to vent about his issues with Bruce. And then at a certain point, she has to seek out Bruce to find Terry. Yeah, that was kind of a cool dynamic where he had kind of 2 people to confide in, for completely different reasons.
Yeah, it's very well done. I like the character a lot. And if the series had gone on, I would have liked to see her take on the Oracle mantle. I think that would have been really cool.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, she was Oracle, just not with all the bells and whistles you associate with that role.
Or wheelchairs.
Yeah. Oh, I think that was supposed to be a thing. Like, when they originally were designing Barbara Gordon for the series, they were going to have her either in a wheelchair or with like a leg brace or a cane or, a prosthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were going to be hinting at something happened to her years ago involving paralysis. But
That
I
would have
guess
been cool.
that was too dark
But
maybe for the show.
yeah, it's not really necessary. They do a fine job without it, and it would have been kind of cool. But also, like with all this super science and tech, like why would she, like how come she wouldn't be able to fix that, medically?
That is true.
So it makes sense that she's just whole.
Yeah, that was the first show that we talked about on Three Geeks like last year at some point, but that was the first show that kind of hinted that back in the past, Batman and Batgirl had kind of a thing going on.
Yeah, and they did it classy, and it wasn't weird like in the stupid Killing Joke.
No gargoyle sex? Come on.
I liked what they did here,
Yeah, it was really well, I guess, alluded to without being too over the top. And also it tied in a lot to the theme of like, man, Bruce is a lonely, lonely man in this show.
But also, I don't know, it made it seem like it was later on, like when they got together, so it's like not like a 16-year-old girl and
Right,
a 35-year-old man.
Right, yeah.
So that I don't know. Again, all I did is allude to it, so you kind of make your own assumptions. But yeah, it was cool in this in this forum.
Oh, you know who we forgot to mention? One of my favorite characters, Ace the Bathound.
Yes. Yes, Ace the Bat Dog is awesome in the show.
They found a way to take the stupidest idea, one of the stupidest ideas from old school Golden Age Batman, and make it work in this show. Back in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, Batman would sometimes have a dog as a companion who had a mask on his face for reasons. And they called him Ace the Bathound. And then they finally found a way to make it work in this show, where Ace
no mask.
Yeah, no mask. Ace is just Bruce's companion in Wayne Manor. Sometimes goes out on patrol with Terry, like if Terry needs a scent tracked down or something like that, or if he's fighting the Splicers, those guys who are infused with animal DNA. So Ace the Bathound, man, I'm glad they made that work.
Yeah, and he seems like a cool dog too. Like,
oh yeah, like he hates Terry at first. But then, as time goes on,
he's like a guard dog, and that's all. But he's the all black Great Dane. So no, Ace the Bathound is awesome. They did do a few things and utilize him in the show, and it's pretty cool.
You mentioned Ink, one of my favorite characters. The reason being, I think one of the episodes she has is an episode that brings Bruce out of retirement for about 5 minutes, because she's captured Terry and is like, I know you're working with an old man. Bring the old man to this location or I'll kill the kid. And so Bruce puts on an armored Batman suit and takes on Ink for about 30 seconds before failing.
Oh yeah, his like heart gives out. I mean, he's like 90, so
yeah. I do like that. You mentioned Curare. Shriek was a good character, the Golem Kid. I liked it whenever they did bring old school Batman villains back into the fold, because they actually, they treated it with a fair amount of dignity, and also it made sense why the character would be the way they are in the future. Like Mr. Freeze comes back.
Yes, that was a good one. Is he the only one though that actually like?
I mean, there's hints, like you have Bane in an episode, but it's Bane is just completely burnt out because he's been using Venom too much, that he's catatonic.
Oh no, but it wasn't even Bane. It was like his doctors or whatever. They were like selling the Venom serum because they had it to keep Bane alive. Yeah. So that was cool. You see Bane.
And I like the way they use that. Yeah, it makes sense. Bane wouldn't be an 80-year-old dude trouncing around still muscle bound. He'd be burnt out by all the drug use.
Freaking steroids are terrible, man.
But Mr. Freeze makes perfect sense. He's technically immortal because he's frozen in that Sub-Zero metabolism. So it made sense to bring him back, and the way they bring him back, it's actually kind of heartbreaking. Like, he basically commits suicide.
Yeah, but Mr. Freeze, when Batman the Animated Series got a hold of him, he became like this whole tragic character already. So, I mean, it kind of goes in line, if they're running from Batman the Animated Series, it makes sense where Mr. Freeze would just be another tragic character.
Yeah.
But it is very sad what he does, but he does the noble thing, I think, at the end.
Well, I also like the fact, too, they touch upon the dynamic between Batman and Mr. Freeze in a different way from what I can remember. Because in the animated series, Mr. Freeze is probably the one villain Batman feels utter sympathy for. He gets why Mr. Freeze is the way he is. And every time they meet, he does try to extend the olive branch and be like, I want to help you. But then bring it to Batman Beyond, new Batman is very much in that dilemma and wants to help Freeze. And meanwhile, Bruce Wayne has just become so old and bitter that he's just like, no, he's just a killer. He deserves what he gets.
But it's also like, it's always Wayne Tech that's trying to cure him, or fix Mr. Freeze. So like, it's both sides of it. But
also, that's not necessarily altruistic, because I just remembered another character. We come back to Powers, who actually is a supervillain in every sense of the word, because he becomes irradiated after meeting Batman, and he ends up becoming Blight. That's his name.
Blight, yes.
And
yes,
I think he's supposed to be there used to be this DC villain called Dr. Phosphorus, who's basically the same design as Blight. Like, you can see the skeleton, but he glows yellow or green or something. He's supposed to be deadly to the touch because he's radiation. He's living like radiation. Right. And so Blight becomes sort of the Green Goblin to Terry for that first season.
Yeah, because he's got Max Power. I don't think his name's Max. I just want to call him Max Powers. Powers, he's obviously got the secret identity as a CEO and everything, so he's making his moves that way. And then he's using the Blight side to do, his corporate espionage stuff, like the dirty deeds that he needs to get done. And they go through a lot, like the makeup that he's got to wear, in the day to hide the the radiation.
Yeah.
So he can still, do his normal things, and like they kind of go into his troubles as well. I think he's a solid villain.
Again, it just ties in very much with what they're trying to do with that show, make it different from the animated series, the original animated series, whereas Batman would take on supervillains and mobsters. Here, Batman's basically fighting the system, because the system is run by an asshole. I know you mentioned a couple of episodes that you thought were kind of standouts, or a couple of episodes that you really remembered. I mentioned a couple of characters and episodes. Was there ever an episode or character that never really worked for you, that you're kind of like, huh?
Later on in the series, when he meets up with the Justice League, the new Justice League, I didn't really like any of those guys. As far as reoccurring characters that I didn't think really worked. No, I mean, I feel like everything's, it's got its place. There's nothing really, I might just be, glossing it over in memory, but yeah, I don't feel like there's any stick in the mud.
I'll agree with you on the Justice League thing a little bit. I don't mind some of the characters. Like, I like that Big Barda's there, and it makes sense that there would be a new Green Lantern and things like that, but I think they were trying, this was before the actual Justice League show was going to be released, and they were just seeing okay, how would a team dynamic work on a show like this? So it was testing out the waters before actually wading in. But yeah, it was, I don't know, it was kind of a lackluster intro for a Justice League. So the one returning character that I kind of raised my eyebrow at when it was revealed what was going on with the character was Talia. That got weird. Do you remember what happened with Talia?
No. Oh, didn't she start hitting on Terry?
No. You want me to regale you with this quick tale?
I'm trying to remember. It's like she offers Bruce youth again?
Yeah, she gives him one of the Lazarus pits to make him young again, because Bruce is miserable as an old man. And so it's revealed at the end of the episode that Talia is actually possessed by Ra's al Ghul.
Ah, yes.
And I'm kind of like, I mean, Ra's al Ghul's evil. I don't know if I'd ever buy this version of him wiping his daughter's mind out of existence. But also, dude, you made out with Bruce. That's not commitment to your role, I don't know what is.
Hey, man, it's 2018. All right, you can't look down on the man for his sexual proclivities.
Okay. Not looking down. I'm just saying, I'm sure there was a more, I guess, effective means to an end than playing this long seduction game with your arch nemesis.
Who doesn't want to make out with their daughter's boyfriend?
Okay. So anyway, Return to the Joker.
That is a little odd, but yeah, Ra's al Ghul, he's 100% dedicated, so I don't see how he would have even a problem making out with Bruce Wayne.
Yep, can't fault the guy for his lack of commitment. Sure. I will admit the one thing I do love about that episode is they have a Batman musical at the start of the episode, which is like Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark, but for Batman. And it's the first time you ever hear Kevin Conroy sing, because he plays the actor who's playing Batman in the production, and so he has like this cool melody, which I do have committed to memory. He goes like, "A superstitious, cowardly lot." That's the name of the song. Kevin Conroy's got some pipes on him.
Oh yeah, he's a trained singer.
I can totally see why Ra's al Ghul would make out with him now.
that super butter soft voice just melt through your heart, man.
Yeah. He sang in Justice League, right?
Yeah, there's an episode where I think Wonder Woman's turned into a pig.
Yeah, and he has to sing in order to turn her normal.
Batman ends up singing a song to save the day. It's an odd episode.
Fun. And it is pure audio joy to hear him reunited with Mark Hamill in Return of the Joker. Segway!
Yes! Knocked out of the park.
I think Return of the Joker was being made while they were doing the last season of Beyond. Like, the show wasn't over yet. They just wanted to do this movie while they had the chance. As the title might suggest, guess who comes back?
Two-Face!
The terrible trio, or whatever they're called.
Terry McGinnis' first dealings with the Joker. In the beginning of the movie, he crashes one of Bruce Wayne's, big Wayne party gala functions and makes his debut back in town, and all kinds of chaos ensues from that. I'm not sure if I like the way they brought back the Joker, like the science behind it, but I dig everything about this movie.
Again, I'm gonna say it all leads somewhere eventually. At the time, though, yeah, I was kind of like, that's kind of weird and flimsy, especially with the world they established for Batman. But later on, when they incorporate stuff from like Justice League and things like that, I'm like, okay, now it kind of sort of makes sense, because Bruce Timm was like, we got to make everything kind of line up in the end. But yeah, the way they bring him back, I was kind of like, at first, like, all right.
But they tell a super dark story.
Yeah.
In this one, I was just like, because they had to make a version that they could put out on TV, and they had to change it from the DVD release that they made.
Yeah.
Just because they thought it was too much for kids, and I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Yeah, I first saw not the original, but the edited version that they released on video. And at the time, I'm like, okay, that's all right, I guess. But then when I saw the unrated, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazingly dark. And I love it.
Yes. And yeah, I just can't believe that Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, those guys, yeah, they made a freaking thriller. Like, it's like Hannibal Lecter stuff going on here.
Yeah. I mean, because I know we spoiled some stuff for the show, but there's a lot of episodes of Batman Beyond that you can enjoy spoiler-free. I don't want to spoil Return of the Joker on here, honestly.
Okay.
Just because...
I can respect that.
Yeah. Just because I have a feeling like that, along with Mask of the Phantasm, those are some of the best written animated Batman stories. The origins into what happened, quote-unquote, on the last night Batman and the Joker met. Yeah, it's heartbreaking stuff.
For Mask of the Phantasm, that one was too, like, really dark, and it's like, wow, I don't see how they got away with this, but they did. Great storytelling in both movies. Return of the Joker is probably, it goes up there. It's top Batman animated films, just because it's got everything. Even with old Bruce Wayne, like, you got all the Batman things that you want, and it's like very well written. You got all the super awesome voice talent: Tara Strong, freaking Mark Hamill, Kevin Conroy. Will Friedle, everybody shows up, so it's just good stuff.
They get Dean Stockwell to show up from Quantum Leap. Everything's just like, not miserable, but man, it's such a bleak outcome for a lot of these characters down the line. Even though that seems appropriate for the Batman family, that things aren't going to be sunshine and rainbows at the end of the day.
Yeah, I feel like you wouldn't feel right if it ended, on all peachiness. Like, yeah, the bad guys beat, but we took some shots too. Like, is how Batman is.
Did you ever play the video game associated with the movie?
No, I did not.
Good.
I missed out on that gem.
It is almost Superman 64 levels of bad. Almost. You don't have to fly through rings.
Is gross.
Yeah. I liked hearing Hamill come back, and his interactions with Will Friedle, with Eric Matthews, are actually kind of fun. I do love their back and forth because, this is a lighter Batman in terms of his demeanor. He's not always doom and gloom. Like, he can crack a joke at times, or he can be a smartass. I feel that complements this Joker well, even more so than Conroy's Batman with Hamill.
It's a good, because throughout the movie, he calls him Bat Fake all the time, and so when he starts messing, he's like, "Well, Batman wouldn't say anything Bat Fake," and he's like, "Well, I'm not your Batman. I'm a different Batman."
Yeah. I like that he gets under the Joker's skin in that way, because he's basically, he cuts to the core. He plays like psychologist with the Joker and says, like, the only reason you kept coming back was because you never got the old man to smile. Admit it. You just wanted to see this old coot laugh. And the Joker was like completely deconstructed there.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was really good. I liked, also it's good too that Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill have this great chemistry, and obviously they've been working together for years. But you're not sure how Eric Matthews is going to handle with Mark Hamill, and they do a good job. It's just really, it's a lot of fun.
I love that we just called him Eric Matthews now.
Yeah, well, that's his name.
That's his name now and forever. The moments where they do flash back to OG Batman and Joker, that's some of the darkest I've heard Conroy take the character. Like, when it's revealed what happened and Batman is emotionally devastated by what the Joker's done to him. That point where he has him by the throat and he's about to say, like, "I'll break you in two." I'm like, I buy Kevin Conroy would break the Joker in two, or Kevin Conroy Batman would do that. At
that moment, and again, like, this just goes to the great voice work and then these actors are doing, and it's just, you feel it in that moment. It's like Batman would do the thing that he, again, sworn never to, and Joker is probably the only person who could put him there.
And it just, again, retroactively made me kind of laugh at Christian Bale and Ben Affleck whenever they try to sound intimidating.
Yeah. And again, it goes to the approach. I know we've talked about this on the show, on the cast before, but Kevin Conroy did Batman's voice first. Mm-hmm. His speaking voice is Batman's voice, and then he makes an affectation for Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. And no one else does it. They always do it backwards. They always do Bruce Wayne's voice as the speaking voice, obviously, because they have to show up and be, like, they don't get the blessings of animation.
Right,
but, they need to do something for their voice on Bruce Wayne versus Batman, and it's never, no one does it as good as Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, that is his natural voice is far more intimidating than a voice modulator or sounding like you have throat cancer.
Sounding like you smoked 15 packs like 10 minutes ago.
I'll break you in two.
He sounds like a freaking, like, old Jewish lady in New York somewhere.
I was gonna go with Harvey Fierstein, but okay. David.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Like, I've got to call my lawyer.
You like, a chick pea is neither a chick nor a pea. Discuss.
Oh man. When are we going to get that podcast started? Oh, man. The verklempt mother.
Yes. That'll be on next week.
That'll be McChat episode or show number whatever.
Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker is just a solid flick, and it gives you all the Batman things you want and surprises you. So, like, that's why I liked it a lot, just because, like, they do things that you just don't see coming.
Something I just kind of realized when we were talking about Return of the Joker is you mentioned the great voice cast, and how a lot of these people, whether we knew it or not, were mainstays in the Bruce Timm stable of shows for a long period of time. Like Tara Strong, of course, has been there for a long while. Mark Hamill. But then I was looking at the credits here. Michael Rosenbaum was in Batman Beyond. Not just the show, but Return of the Joker. He played Ghoul, the scarecrow-looking Joker.
Okay, yeah.
I just realized, like, oh my gosh, yeah. This predates not just Smallville, but Justice League, too, where he played the Flash. Honestly, I wouldn't have matched up that voice with all those other characters, because he kind of goes for a different presentation. He's like Christopher Walken almost with his Ghoul. I think that's what he was going for, was Christopher Walken, but
that definitely was what he was shooting for. That would have been cool if they got Christopher Walken.
This 70-year-old man playing a teenage gangster.
Well, I mean, it's all animated. You know, you don't have to.
But there is a point. There is a point where you can tell that it's a very elderly person playing the role in the voice.
Yeah,
there's a shake.
They'll clean it up in post.
I watched Batman vs. Two-Face, the last Adam West animated Batman movie they did before he passed.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone sounds great, you know, of course. Batman sounds like Adam West, of course. Burt Ward. What's his name? Oh my God. I just know him as Shatner. I was about to say Captain Kirk. I'm like, how can I forget Shatner? But William Shatner plays Two-Face, and he sounds fine. But then you've got Julie Newmar playing Catwoman again, and she sounds like an elderly lady.
All right, so maybe no Christopher Walken, but yeah, that's definitely what he was shooting for with that character, and it was cool. It worked out. It's not like it was a cheesy, like it's really bad.
And he's not the star of the show, so it's all
right.
Should we talk a little bit about how later on they tried to work Batman Beyond into the larger scheme of things?
And this is another it's like Bruce Timm and Paul Dini together. They can't do Batman stuff without making lasting impressions. You know, like Harley Quinn was a character created in the Batman animated series, made it to the comic books, made it to official canon because she was so good. Yeah, so Terry McGinnis makes it into canon as well because everyone just loves Batman Beyond so much that they can't not tell more stories.
Well, in the comics, they kind of pick up where the series leaves off, and he's just still doing his adventures. Did you read any of Future's End?
No, I never actually read any of the Batman Beyond comic books because I liked the animation so much. I didn't want to ruin it with bad storytelling.
Right. But, Future's End is kind of a mess, definitely.
But I dug that the characters still got their time.
I'm glad Terry McGinnis found his way into the mainstream comic books. I feel like that environment and that setting is so far separated from what they're doing in modern DC history that you can have fun with that. You can still, stay true to that character without feeling like you have to tie it back into whatever is going on with Rebirth. But I meant more how they made Batman Beyond work in the Bruce Timm universe, the animated stuff, because when it came time for, I think, Justice League Unlimited, they thought it was going to be their last season, the whole fighting Brainiac and Lex Luthor thing. And so they were saying, hey, we've got one more episode. Let's call it Epilogue. And let's just say this is our capping off the entire animated DC universe by making it all tie together. But then Cartoon Network was like, hey, can you guys do 2 more seasons? And they're like, shit! All right. The episode Epilogue from Justice League Unlimited. It brings back Terry McGinnis and that whole world. And again, it's kind of that whole, okay, that's a little weird sci-fi-y stuff they do to tie everything together. But I personally didn't mind that bit of, I guess, retconning in a way. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you remember?
Yeah. I 100% do. Can we spoil that?
Yeah, let's spoil this one.
We've done pretty good about not spoiling stuff today.
Yeah.
So Terry McGinnis is actually a Bruce Wayne clone. And I thought it was at the end of this series that they did that episode, but yeah, that makes even more sense that they did it at the end of or at Justice League, just because
that whole season of Justice League Unlimited was about the Justice League fighting Cadmus, which was made up of this think tank of scientists and geneticists. They were basically genetically engineering their own superheroes to fight the League. And so it made sense to tie in that origin story for Terry McGinnis into Cadmus. Basically, like, what was it? Amanda Waller at the end of things was like, you know what? I respect Batman, but I also understand Batman is getting old. So she wanted to continue Batman by making a Batman.
And this always goes so well.
It also tied in a lot to, again, I'm not going to spoil Return of the Joker because I feel that's worth exploring with some surprises, but it ties in a little bit to making Joker make sense in that movie. Like, when that movie first came out, I was kind of like, that's a bit of a stretch. But then after you tie it in with what goes on in Epilogue, you're kind of like, oh, okay. Well, makes sense now. Perfectly.
Yeah, it makes it work a little better.
I think that might have been part of it, too, is maybe they were like, a lot of people aren't buying how we're bringing back the Joker. We'll make it work here.
See, the science is there.
It's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
What's the deal with not using this science? If you've got it there, why don't you use it, George?
But I like that. The only thing that didn't really did they talk about how like they got Terry McGinnis's parents killed? Like, was that part of the whole conspiracy? Or
here is what it was going to be.
Or was that just a happy accident?
Yeah, that was just fate. So Amanda Waller was like, I'm going to rewrite. She rewrote Terry's dad's genes when he was getting a flu shot, as if we didn't need any more anti-vaxxing propaganda.
Man, Jenny McCarthy actually wrote this.
Beware, kids. I don't know. This would be a pro-vaccine thing. Go get your flu shot. Get Bruce Wayne's DNA. Awesome.
Yeah, you can spawn little Batmans.
So basically, she overwrote his genetic code to match Bruce's, so that when he and what's the mom? Mary? Is that his mom's name?
I don't even know the mom's name.
I think it's Mary. When he and Mary have Terry, that it's actually half her DNA, half Bruce Wayne's DNA, which explains why he has black hair and they are redheads, which probably explains why they got divorced. I'm just throwing it out there. That's probably why he left her.
But I mean, like, again, genetics, if you got red hair, you got to know that that's the outlier. So, like the black hair capability would be more prevalent anyway.
But this also means that Terry's younger brother is also half Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Is he a little Batman too?
I smell a future Damian Wayne.
Oh, that would be pretty cool. Batman and Robin is just Terry and his little brother.
I think that might actually be the case in the comics right now. Like, he's actually taken his brother under his wing and like is training him to be the new Robin or something.
I'm down for this.
But anyways, yeah, so half of it was, okay, we got to get someone out there who's genetically almost perfect match for Bruce Wayne. Because, training and shit like that doesn't play into it. You just got to have the right genes.
Right. It helps to start on the right foot, Mike.
Bruce Wayne is every Aryan's ultimate fantasy. He's not blonde-haired, but he can kick ass just because of his genes.
Yep.
Then she's like, what we're going to do is we're going to stage the murder of his parents. And that in the episode, like, she hires Phantasm to assassinate the McGinnises, which I thought was kind of cool. And Bruce Timm has even gone on the record as saying, like, there's no reason why the assassin should be Phantasm. I just wanted to put her there.
Yeah. It's like, I want to play with my toys.
Yeah, he's like, this is the last episode. I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
And then several episodes later, he's like, I shouldn't have blown my load on that.
No, I know that's the problem with the Flash and Arrow shows. They're like, we're only getting one season. Let's do it all right now. And then now they're like, everyone loves it. Oh, what are we going to do now?
This time, everyone goes into the Speed Force. The end. Yeah, and so, yeah, like you said, his dad getting killed was just a happy accident. Or not a happy one, but definitely.
Yes. It wasn't the accident they wanted. It was the accident they needed.
There we go. The accident they deserved.
Oh, God, terrible.
But that whole episode, it's like, it's actually, I feel that is the end for the Bruce Timm verse. Like, it bookends perfectly with the first episode of Batman. The first episode of Batman was the Man-Bat episode, where you see the shadow of Man-Bat, like, careening through Gotham City, and you got Kevin Conroy as one of the police officers in the blimp being like, did you see that? Looked like a bat. And then it ends with that. With futuristic Gotham, you see Terry, his silhouette, careening through the skyscrapers. He swoops past a cop car in the air, and it's Kevin Conroy playing the cop being like, did you see that? It looks like a bat. And I like that. It's the perfect, like, bookend.
And also, like you're saying, as Bruce Timm's like, hey, this is my last episode. I'm going to wrap up 3 or 4 different cartoons with this, So that's it's really cool. I think it's a solid episode. People are kind of divided on it, I think, but I like that Terry McGinnis is a clone. I dig that storyline, and it's very comic book anyway.
Well, and also I think what's her name, Amanda Waller, actually says a lot of the stuff we said earlier on in the episode about what are the strengths of Terry versus the strengths of Bruce. She actually says, like, it's a good thing you're his clone, because you may not be as smart as him, but you care just about as much as he does, if not more so. And also, oh man, I can't believe we haven't mentioned it yet, the flashback with Justice League Batman and Ace. Not the dog, but Ace, the metahuman. The Royal Flush Gang Ace.
Yes, the Royal Flush Gang, that's what it is.
Dude, I still get misty-eyed seeing that scene where they're on the swing set.
Yeah.
Ace is like, I don't want to be alone. Again, Bruce Timm stuff knows how to rip out your heart.
Yeah, they're just excellent storytellers, man. They just do it every time.
But then part of me is kind of wondering, like, did he name the dog Ace in memory of her? I'm like, there had to have been a better thing, Bruce.
I mean, is Ace's full name Ace the Bathound? Like, does Batman call him Ace the Bathound?
No, he just calls him Ace.
But yeah, I'm going to say yes. Ace the Bathound is named after Ace from the Royal Flush Gang, who we had a very, very heart-tugging moment with one time.
Well, I mean, I guess like father, like son. I remember reading some of Grant Morrison's Batman stuff when he predicted future Batman as Damian Wayne, and Damian has a cat in the Batcave he calls Alfred. So I'm like, okay, I can buy that Batman. His way of being sentimental about people he's lost is to name animals and to name pets after them. Sure. There's a canary somewhere named Dick.
Yeah.
If anything, that's the one hang-up I have about Batman Beyond, is that we're never really given, at least in the show, I think, we're never really given confirmation as to what happened to Dick Grayson.
Yeah, they don't talk about that at all. I think Barbara Gordon mentions him.
Well, her mentioning him in the Return of the Joker is like, he left. Like, he left for Bloodhaven or whatever at some point. I mean, I can see why, because you don't want to always be like, hey, let's see what Two-Face is up to, or how about Catwoman? You got to make the show stand on its own while still playing into those archetypes. So I could see not bringing up Dick Grayson all the time. That would, be the ultimate source of pandering. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt like just this big looming question mark at one point.
Yeah, maybe he went black. Like, you don't know what happened. Like, nobody knows what happened to Dick Grayson.
I'm sorry, what?
Maybe he went black. He went dark. Like,
I thought you meant he went black as in...
Like, he got jungle fever?
Yeah, he got jungle fever or something.
Yeah,
once you go black, you never go back,
Dick.
Dick.
This crime-fighting business.
You know what? I'd be fine with that. He settles down. He settles down with a nice dude. They open up, like, I don't know, an antiquing shop or something together.
Maybe a bed and breakfast.
Yeah, sure. He deserves some happiness. Come on. His family was killed by gangsters.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, nobody in the Bat family really has it that great, all things considered. But, you hope somebody made it out. And if they don't mention Dick, maybe it's because, like, they just want to keep him in his, like, nice, happy place.
Yeah. Well, from here on out, that is my new Batman Beyond headcanon. is that Terry just continues being Batman and struggling with his day-to-day life. Bruce is still old and bitter. Barbara still not as trustworthy as of Batman as she could be. Tim is traumatized from his experiences. And Dick got out while the getting out was good in many ways. And he's living very happily in Long Beach with Ronald. I don't know.
Yeah, but that's good. No, we can let him live there. That's fine.
Out of a possible 10 Batarangs, because you guys have inspired me to come up with my own Chatterangs. Yeah, that's right. Because again, the Three Geeks inspired me to come up with my own bullshit rating system. Out of 10 Chatterangs, what would you give Batman Beyond as a series and as a franchise overall?
8 out of 10 Chatterangs. It is wholly watchable. There's only a few like filler episodes that aren't really anything. Mm-hmm. And the writing, obviously Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, you can't go wrong. So yeah, 8 out of 10. I'd
give it 8 out of 10 Chatterangs as well. It doesn't have any right to be as good as it is. Because again, coming back to that original premise of, I think that was the idea, was that Bruce Timm didn't want to do the show. Warner Brothers or Kids WB or whoever was running the show, the animated stuff at the time, said, we want young teenage Batman. I think one of the original pitches was that they wanted Power Rangers meets Batman. Like, they would have transforming robots and stuff like that. And Bruce Timm's like, tell you what, put a pin in that. How about I go and develop a future Batman show for you, and you see if you like it or not. And he basically dove into it with no restrictions. The head honchos were like, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that. Like, Bruce Timm's like, I'm going to do whatever I want on this. And he got Paul Dini and
freaking Tim, okay? You know what that means?
He made your company, assholes.
Yep.
Batman Beyond, in the hands of a lesser creative team, could have gone horribly wrong.
Oh, yeah.
But thankfully, they were able to take that silly idea and turn it into something pretty epic.
And again, like, they created characters for the Bat universe. Like, they added to the canon. And that's, I think, the major test. Mm-hmm. Of quality is like, hey, do people want this so much that you've now added it to the entire tapestry of the of the DC universe? So it's like, not many people can say that, or it's a pretty small list of creators who get to do that, and they also did it backwards, because this all started in the comic books, and like they're on TV, so it's like this is sort of an extra way in, and
right.
And nobody else has done that, so
well.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's the Harley Quinn effect, which I think we should categorize as its own term now. The Harley Quinn effect. I don't think anyone's done that yet, which is you add something new to the overall mythology from one particular medium, and it just becomes so endearing and so appealing that everyone else has to throw it into the mix. Like Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Like Terry McGinnis. Batman Beyond. Check it out. Definitely. You've been listening to The Chat Cave here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Before we close out here for the same chat time, same chat channel, Max, really quick question. What other futuristic character would you want to see crossover with Batman Beyond?
Ooh. All right, so it's a character already in the future or a character that I'd like to see kind of brought to the future?
A character from any comic book, movie, TV show, medium, whatever. Doesn't have to be DC exclusive, but a character whose premise is set in the future.
I would like to see kind of like a Blade Runner sort of thing.
Yes. You took mine. Darn it.
I think that could be done very well, and I like that whole world. So I think that would be, and that would fit with Batman Beyond too. It's sort of it's Blade Runner 2049. Saw that recently, love that movie, and yeah, I think they could do a lot of good things with it. I'd like to see Batman messing around in that kind of world.
When I was watching that movie, and you see Kay's car flying through the skyscrapers, I so desperately just wanted a little Easter egg of you see a little dude in a bat suit flying across the skyline. Like, no one would notice it except the hardcore fans, and we'd be like,
super hardcore.
McGinnis! I'd say Spider-Man 2099. They got very similar themes, like Spider-Man 2099 fights a big corporation, and
Yeah, in that one, it's like the corporations have kind of taken over and they run everything, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see him and Beyond teaming up for some shenanigans in the future.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be a nice little DC Marvel crossover too.
Make that happen, DC and Marvel. I know you won't because you hate each other's guts, but
Yeah, put Bruce Timm in charge.
I miss the old days of when DC and Marvel were friendly competitors, and now they're just out to gouge each other's eyes out.
I think we'll get back there. It's just we're all getting accustomed to the new technology, so now everybody's.
I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Up.
We'll get those crossovers when Disney buys out DC.
Yes.
Because Disney's
finally,
buying out everybody.
They're like, you know what? We'll just buy it. Forget it. I don't even care.
And we'll just have the Marvel Universe with the DC imprint.
I mean, like they haven't crossed over Marvel into Star Wars yet. So I mean, they got both of those, and that seems to me like easy, low hanging fruit.
What, you didn't see The Last Jedi? I mean, that's the perfect crossover with, I don't know, Deadpool. I don't know. I was going to make a Last Jedi jab, but I'm just like, I don't have the effort in me.
I think, anything that they want to do, like they've tried crossover stuff before. It usually ends up hokey. But if you get the right people involved, I don't see why it couldn't.
Should that perhaps be a topic for next time? Should we both maybe track down a Batman crossover that we genuinely enjoy?
All right. This is going to be rough.
Retweet if you like, folks. Thank you for joining us on To the Chat Cave.
Yes, join us. Same chat time, same chat channel.